I'm here this evening with Gray Man, and you've been working down on the border. Can you kind of give us an up-to-date as to what you're seeing traffic-wise? I mean, we've been having caravans coming up and different things going on. So what are you seeing happening?
Well, first off, let's limit it to Texas.
Right.
Okay, so what they're seeing is, once again, adapting to not only tactics this time, but also the procedures and the guidance for apprehensions. For instance, not at the border, but I've been told that the transnational criminal organizations are telling the people coming from Guatemala not only has the price doubled, but they also have to bring a child with them.
So they're requiring them to have a child.
Yes, because that is a sure way of getting in because of the idiotic decisions our judiciary has made in regards to asylum.
So this child does not have to necessarily be their child.
80% of the children come here with someone other than their parent.
80%?
80%.
Wow.
So why the parents who actually drag their children up here over hundreds of miles aren't charged with child abuse is beyond me.
Wow. So the children are simply a ticket for entrance.
Yes.
And so are a large percent of these traffickers human traffickers, would you say?
The Mexican border is owned by the transnational criminal organizations. There was just a shootout outside of Reynosa, Mexico, between two factions of the Sinaloa cartel.
Wow.
And one of them, I mean, this is, I've seen the video, you can hear the gunshots, which was sustained gunfire. Two operatives from one of the cartels, one of the factions was killed and the bystander was wounded. But you could hear it from the international bridge.
Wow. A lot of people are coming across the border. A lot of people are bringing in diseases as well. Have you, or the people that you're working with, noticed an uptick in different diseases, or is that even something that you may not really see as much?
The procedures we follow is to not have physical contact with any illegal aliens. I can tell you that there's been a history of diseases being transmitted to Border Patrol, and I'm sorry I don't have the slides in front of me.
Yeah.
But everything from tuberculosis to different types of MRSAs, and also in Williamson County here in Texas, a justice of the peace a couple years ago informed a crowd of people that 3 of her clerks had been hospitalized because of tuberculosis that was contracted from people appearing before her court who had been part of the 2014 surge coming across the border.
Okay, Williamson County, you're talking about Round Rock, just north of Austin.
Talking Georgetown.
Georgetown.
Yes, but Williamson,
yeah.
I believe it.
I think it comes down to Round Rock and over to
it does,
Cedar Park.
I can't remember. No, it was not JP3, so it was one of the other 4.
Wow. Wow. Tell me what a typical watch night is for you.
Typical watch night is for a group of us to take position in the South Texas country where we suspect recent, the routes are fresh, where they've come by with people in tow. You know, where I'm just going to call it human trafficking. because that's what it is. Everybody has to pay, and one mechanism of making sure they get paid is to threaten relatives at home. So, everyone is getting paid, and it is human trafficking, no matter if it's only 3 people or 2. So what we try to do is to be intelligent about it, look for sign of recent activity, and post out where we believe they're going to pass close by, so that we can then report their presence to Border Patrol.
So y'all kind of somewhat work in concert with the Border Patrol,
It's a one-way.
being extra eyes and ears.
Yes, it's a one-way relationship pretty much. We're just individuals, private individuals who are trying to assist, and so that, you said it correctly, we observe and we report, we let them do their job, but we try to enhance their capabilities by being where they can't. And you mentioned the convoys. Well, most of the convoys have gone to California. What that has caused is some of the agents have left the sectors in Texas to go reinforce in California. So, like any enemy, the TCOs, transnational criminal organizations, take advantage of that and try to exploit the thin numbers that are on the line.
Wow. What are some of your greatest concerns with what you're seeing today?
A lot of it is evidence of what has passed through. My concern is, one, the depth of their organization. These are professional criminal organizations that have, some people report, up to a $300 billion budget to play with.
Say that again?
Some open sources I have looked at, put the trafficking business, which includes drugs and people, at around $300 billion total a year.
300 billion with a B.
Billion with a B. The latest report is there's 30 billion worth of drugs coming into the U.S. But the issue with the human trafficking is that you basically have a renewable resource. You don't have to manufacture the people again. You just keep being a parasite off of them.
What are people paying to be transported?
It will vary depending on the individual. Back in 2012, 2013, Chinese were paying $50,000
Per person.
per person. Yes. We know that a lot the people that come across, usually it's around 5,000, but what I've been told is that has increased to 8,000 or 9,000, essentially doubling it. And of course, because you are here in an illegal status, they can then capitalize on that to make further money. Let me give you another number.
Okay.
The last number of 2017, $23 billion was sent home to Mexico from the U.S. in untaxed dollars. In other words, people going to Western Union or other service, paying a $2 fee to send $100 and sending that money home. They earn more money from remittances from the people here than they do from oil.
Wow. So the people that are working up here, undocumented, illegal, are being paid in cash?
Well, since my understanding is there is currently no enforcement mechanism that has been funded for E-Verify. Now, I'm not for U.S. citizens being subject to E-Verify. That's ridiculous. But I am subject to foreign nationals being subject to E-Verify. That would include people here on visas, because if you're here on a tourist visa, you cannot work in the U.S. Incidentally, the only people in that category that were deported during the Obama administration were Israelis. So
Interesting.
that is interesting, and the only people seeking asylum that he deported were the Chaldean Christians escaping the Islamic State in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So, you know, that says volume right there in itself. What was your original question?
I don't know. I don't know. I think I was talking about what the cost was.
On the cost.
Yeah.
But the money that's sent home is significant, and I remember the president during the campaign talking about taxing that. He needs to. It cost me 15 to 20 bucks to send money from my credit union to my bank. But we're allowing foreign nationals who are here illegally to send out of our treasury, you know, money that
Yeah.
they have earned from a job that should have gone to Americans. And I don't buy the stuff of them doing jobs that Americans won't do.
So, an interesting thought, if they can pay $50,000.
Now that's a Chinese lady who
Yeah.
saved it up,
Okay.
and there was two of them, so they each paid $50,000.
Wow. And they, they're able to pay that kind of money. It's interesting that so many of them that come into the country, if not virtually all of them, are on the taxpayer
Yes.
check.
Yes, and again, these are things that, these loopholes, these workarounds were built into the laws by Democrats and rhinos. Because
Workarounds, that's a good word.
because, you know, if you're an illegal alien, you don't get welfare unless you have a child. And then we have to take care of the children.
Yes.
So they get a check. And who's getting the check? The Tango Blast gang member in Houston who's probably abusing the child while he's getting the check. I'm just putting it out
Like it
there
is.
of, yeah,
Yeah.
what's to stop them when we see what they've done already to our citizens
What are your thoughts?
on,
Wide open question. We got to change some things. What things in particular do you think Americans need to become more aware of so that they can put some pressure on their elected officials?
they need to stand up and be Americans, for one, and quit having this love affair with all the opulence we have. We've been blessed
Yes.
with this republic, but we need to take our government seriously and get it out of the hands of professional politicians. You know, our founding fathers.
Oh, they would be rolling.
Well, you know, farmers, tradesmen, inventors, they did not look at politics as a professional endeavor. And that showed that they still had a connection with the
Yeah.
people back home.
Yeah.
First thing we have to do is secure the border.
Yes.
And don't tell me walls don't work. Just ask the 2,999 Americans killed at Omaha Beach when they ran up against the German defenses. Borders do work. Fortunately, we don't have an active war on our southern border, but the wall, the barrier, whatever you call it, serves the same purpose. Slow down, channelize those seeking to come in and do us harm. And I include those who raid our treasury as doing us harm.
Yeah. On the lower part of the southern tip of Texas, do we have any border wall as such in that area? I know that we have a couple of things, but not much at all.
In an area of Brownsville, there's a border wall that was put in several years ago from the Border Wall Act of 2006. I can tell you, I'm going to quote something from one of my presentation slides. Obstacles are only effective when covered by fire. In this case, observation and a rapid response by the Border Patrol.
Right.
So when we go down to certain areas around Brownsville, we see the footprints from the tennis shoes that the illegals have used to climb the wall or the steel girder fence that on top of which is a FLIR camera that can see 6.2 miles. So when you have people creeping through the brush, making a rush to get over that so they can trespass on private property, harass people, and then make it to the hardball road so they can get picked up by their rides, they're inside our decision cycle for the Border Patrol. So we need the barriers to channelize, to slow them down. We need more agents. When the checkpoint in Foul Furious, 70 miles inland,
Yes.
gets fully operational with 8 lanes north, 8 lanes south, so that every single truck will be inspected. They will need 150 agents just to man those 8 lanes. So
How many lanes are there now?
there is, let's see, there's basically 1 or 2 on north and south. And so you have the 2 lanes of traffic on 281 going through the checkpoint. And I haven't bothered to turn my head to look
Yeah.
to see how many lanes. There's at least 1, but the thing's going to be massive. So we need more agents. They need to up the standards, and that's from someone in the chain of command who I asked, what's your wish list? They need to get every M4 carbine back and make that standard equipment for deployment so that our guys, if they have to go up against an AK-47, at least,
Have a fighting
return
chance.
fire.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In visiting with agents that are working down there, have you? And what are you hearing from them? We're starting to hear. I mean, President Trump's starting to put them in front of the cameras, and so we're starting to hear from them directly.
Well, I can tell you morale has skyrocketed ever since he took office.
Yeah.
Because they believe that he has their back.
Yes.
And I believe he does. And so morale is up because they see they have the opportunity to do the job. The issue is within the hierarchy of the deep state embedded in certain areas of Customs Border Patrol and Department of Homeland Security.
Yes.
Okay? Because they need to start behaving like Americans or resign their position.
Okay. From your experience on that very issue, how, as a commander whose heart's in the right place, how can they tell if they've got a deep state, somebody in there that is, what is, are you seeing something? I know you're an outsider in this regard, but in working closely with some folks, what are your thoughts? How do we clean this up?
You clean it up, one, by properly funding Border Patrol, Customs Border Patrol. Or Customs Border Protection is the title.
Mm-hmm.
All right. First off, I would recommend, and if the professionals disagree with that, I'll bow to them, but you need unity of command. So put ICE under Customs Border Protection. We don't need it to be a separate agency in terms of flow of information. 2, budget them properly. Health and Human Services last fiscal year, boy, I don't want to misquote. I believe it's $115 billion. Border Patrol, about $23 billion. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. Every fiscal year, the agents, the blue suiters that work at the ports of entry, they bring in over $43 billion a year in duties, fees, and tariffs from legal cargo and people coming into the country.
Where does that money go?
Congress squanders it on something, obviously. Now I've been told by congressmen, oh, we can't directly give it to them. Fine. You get $43 billion in FY18. Write a law that automatically puts that amount against the Border Patrol. Or, Mr. Congressman, tell me what is so much more important than securing our borders and the safety of our citizens that you don't think they should get that money.
So the vast majority of people that are, well, virtually all of them, I would say, my opinion, that are coming up are not people seeking asylum at all, but it is truly an invasion of our country.
They are using asylum as a ticket in. One of the things, I don't know if it's still occurring under the Obama administration, the Border Patrol was taking the people that they apprehended directly to Catholic Charity Services to fill out the paperwork before they were processed, to be coached on how to ask for asylum. I'm assuming that has ended. If not, then I will be kicking in my congressman's door to get it stopped, because that is a reprehensible activity. First of all, any agency, any organization that gets U.S. tax dollars should not be involved in getting illegal aliens any type of status in this country.
From what I understand, not only the Catholic Charities or Catholic Church, but the Lutherans and a couple other denominations are actively working with these people that are coming in. The first 4 months, that's all they have to watch them, is for 4 months. They get $1,500 a person. It's become their cash cow. And their responsibility is to, if they're over 65, get them on Social Security, which they never paid into. Take the children to get them on CHIP and health care, and just all the various services that are available for them. So they're totally on the taxpayers' payroll, with never having contributed to our country and have no rights to it.
That's right. And here's another thing. Since you brought up that aspect, Refugee Services of Texas, because the president cut a leg out from under him by lowering the number of refugees we're taking in from over 100,000 to 30,000, they have gotten into the unaccompanied minor children business.
Oh my.
Yes, so they are part of the organizations that are getting that money. And speaking of these refugee service organizations that are essentially contractors by the State Department or Health and Human Services, they have their headquarters, the 9 major contractors have their headquarters totally paid for in Washington, D.C. by taxpayer money.
How things that the typical American taxpayer is totally unaware of.
That's right. So this is what happens as far as the refugees are concerned. Is they are brought over on the U.S. taxpayer dime. They're given money and services that very little they have to pay back to anybody, and then they are given a job that should go to an American for half the wages an American would earn, which allows them to stay on welfare, and the company that hires them gets a tax break.
Lovely. Which means, once again, we're paying that difference
right.
there on their tax break.
That's right.
Wow. In the last few months when we've had these situations with the caravans that are coming up and all, are you seeing, because there's been, on the news we hear there's more of a pushback to keep them out of the country.
Yes.
But are you seeing any drop in the number of illegals that are coming across?
No, in fact, it's gone up.
It's gone up.
Because one, this is the money-making proposition for the transnational criminal organizations. So if they see that it may be ending, they want to cash in while they can. It's like, going out of business.
Wow.
So I think it's 4,000 a day that are coming across the U.S. And I do believe the apprehensions have gone up from about 310 to about 6 of every 10, which means 4 out of every 10 are getting away.
I forgot what the stat is on how many are actually criminals with records and with a documented history of violence.
Yeah. Well, I know that the past 7 years, over 250,000 have been incarcerated in Texas jails.
Wow.
Not an insignificant number. And every week it seems we hear of another drunk alien driving, illegal alien driving.
Of course he's drunk.
Or some sort of rape or murder of one of
Yes.
our children.
Wow.
So, you know, I do not treat these as statistics. These are American families that are being impacted. How dare any politician or any pundit say, well, the rate of crime is just the same as America. Well, fine. We'll tell them while they're burying their child.
Yeah. Well, with the number of police officers
Yeah.
and other first responders that are being murdered on a daily basis, and then the other people that are being killed by these illegals, I think we now have more people being killed in the United States than we do have fighting our wars.
Well, yeah, I'm, fortunately, since the start of November, we've had only 6 killed in action. 4 by a roadside bomb, 1 by a betrayal in the Afghan army, and then 1 ranger was killed in direct combat.
So in the last
Afghanistan.
60 days,
Last
that's all
60 days.
actually in war.
That's
But more than
war.
that have been killed in just police officers, first responders, I believe.
Yeah,
That's becoming almost a daily report, and that's tragic.
that is.
They really are our frontline war fighters today.
Yes.
We may have to totally relook at their job descriptions before long.
Well, let's seal the border. And President Eisenhower did something. I know people might start doing cheetah flips when I say it, but he initiated Operation Wetback in the 1950s, and twice as many people self-deported as they deported, because once the word got out, everybody skedaddled.
Do you think these that have come into our country would?
A lot of them would. What we have to do is not allow people who have a misplaced idea of compassion stand in our way.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm speaking from experience. My marriage was broken up by Bill Clinton, not personally, but because he put a ban on Hungarian visas because Hungary would not support his bombing of Serbia, which is an illegal combat operation, I do believe. But so it took over 2 years to get her a visa.
Wow. Yeah.
And she couldn't understand why. And in fact, here's another dirty little secret of the games that they play. I went to the embassy in Budapest to complain with her. And she was extremely upset. I asked her why. She said, none of these people here getting their visas are Hungarians. They're Serbs that are using our embassy to get the visas because your embassy has closed in Belgrade.
Wow. Wow. Lord help us if we can only get things back to a normal standard.
Yeah.
But we are so far from reality now. It's scary. Any final thoughts you want to share?
Support the president, pray for him, contact your congressman. We didn't get in this position overnight. It's been going on since the 60s. So question members of Congress who have more than 2 terms what they voted for and why. Their only job under the Constitution is to safeguard the American people, and nothing else matters. In fact, Congressman King of New York said that in a video clip from They Come to America 2. Said, the president's job is to keep us alive. It's number 1, 2, and 3 priority. Nothing else matters if we're dead.
So true.
So,
true.
let's start making our actions of our elected officials who work for us match their rhetoric.
And most of them need to start representing us and not the illegals.
That's right. Or any moneyed interest that throws money. I'd like to see a bill passed to make it illegal for an employee union that represents federal workers be able to lobby. That should not be happening.
Well, I know you're headed to the border now, so stay in touch. Keep us abreast of what's happening. I think the more awareness we can get out there, maybe we can wake up some additional people to start putting pressure where it's needed.
There are two things I'd like to see happen for the Texas State Legislature. I don't know if they're a bridge too far because it's starting this week.
Yes.
I'd like an expansion of the 287G program to certify Texas peace officers to enforce elements of immigration law, to make the troopers we have down in southern Texas more effective, and the reciprocal process of there are provisions where Border Patrol can be certified to enforce Texas state law. Where that plays in is that any act that they see, they don't have to turn it over directly, wait for a Texas peace officer to show up in order to stop that criminal, who may also be an illegal alien. The second thing is to try to get the funding to eradicate Carrizo cane, which is an invasive species. A law was passed to get rid of it in 2016 in Texas, but it was not funded. I had heard by a certain congressman from Texas that it had been funded, but I have not been able to verify that fact. So it needs both federal and state funding because it's a safety issue for our law enforcement when they have to pursue illegal aliens in 500-yard deep groves of cane from the Rio Grande River.
So give me a little more understanding of that particular bill.
Okay, first off, it was an invasive species planted by the federal government to stop erosion in the 50s. It's taken over portions of the ecosystem, and it has expanded to where it's 500 yards or more in depth in some locations.
Okay.
They have come up with a solution to eradicate it. It does not hurt the water, does not hurt the fish or wildlife or humans or anybody, just kills the stupid cane.
Which is preventing all, Border Patrol from seeing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would
okay.
like to go in a grove and have 4 or 5, Zetas waiting for me.
I wouldn't.
Exactly. So, but it's going to take a few $1 million to do it. Well, that's money better spent than on any other superfluous project that they have going on. I mean, you can't, don't get this wrong, but you can't fix stupid. If the school districts don't know how to manage their money, you shouldn't reward them by throwing more money at them. So let's have government do its number one job, and that's to protect U.S. citizens.
So needed. So needed. Gray Man, appreciate your time. Let's stay in touch. Thank you.
Bet.